some reason, this is making, like, national news. And as a former person seeking a career in education, this piqued my interest. Maybe you've seen this. A Christian woman at Oklahoma University has failed a paper and made it everyone's problem. Here's the assignment. We'll read over it very briefly. 650-word body of text, double-spaced. It has a normal rubric with the font and everything. And it's just read the article that is given and discuss why you feel the topic is important and worthy of study or not, an application of the study or results to your own experiences, an application of the study or results to observations about other behaviors, linking the objectives or finding from the assigned article the other domains of development or other findings that we read about or discuss in class, a suggestion for further studies or experiments that might help researchers better understand the topic being studied, alternate interpretations of the researcher's findings, a discussion of how to develop in this domain might proceed differently at other developmental stages, your own thoughts on how development proceeds in the domain being researched in the article. So I don't know what class this is necessarily for, but it is not, 650 words is not a huge paper. It talks about point deductions. Here's the grading rubric, I guess. Does the paper show a clear tie to the assigned article? Does the paper present a thoughtful reaction or response to the article rather than a summary? Is the paper clearly written? So, the article in question was about gender, I guess. And this is the essay that was put up, and it is a rough read. This was obviously TPUSA. The chapter of TPUSA from that university is, of course, all over this. So the student, Samantha, wrote the following essay. This article was very thought-provoking and caused me to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and the role it plays in our society. Repeating back the rubric is a terrible way to go about an essay. The article discussed peers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I do not necessarily see this as a problem. God made male and female and made us differently from each other on purpose and for a purpose. God is very intentional with what he makes, and I believe trying to change that would only do more harm. Gender roles and tendencies should not be considered stereotypes. Women naturally want to do womanly things because God created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. Like shutting the fuck up? Is that because the Bible says that women should shut the fuck up. But yet I'm hearing Samantha's words and bearing witness to her higher education. Why is she not living biblically and shutting the fuck up? Is this perhaps because her personal desires do not always align with the biblical womanly desires that she's supposed to? She's definitely not shutting the fuck up. Why is she at school? No idea. She's not supposed to be. She's supposed to be homemaking, biblically speaking. The same goes for men, who should be in charge of me, because God said so. God created men in the image of his courage and strength, and he created women in the image of his beauty. He intentionally created women differently than men, and we should live our lives with that in mind. So, as you can see, this is just the first part of it. We'll read more. This is not addressing the article whatsoever, just that it said that the article existed. This isn't engaging with the topic. It's just preaching your fucking religion. This student got a 0 and is very upset that she got a 0 on this topic. So far, I would be giving a 0 based on the rubric. It is frustrating to me when I read articles like this and discussion posts from my classmates of so many people trying to conform to the same mundane opinion so they do not step on people's toes. I think that is a cowardly and insincere way to live. It is important to use the freedom of speech that we have been given in this country, and I personally believe that eliminating gender in our society would be detrimental as it pulls us farther from God's original plans for humans. I think it's very interesting that Christians think that God is so powerless and humans so powerful in denying him all the time. They think that if we examine the human condition and say to ourselves, maybe I don't like the way that gender is expressed. Maybe I don't like falling into these very specific guidelines society has set for me without conferring with me. Maybe I want to be myself that happens to be a different way to live than some other fucking people. It's just ridiculous, man. This is obviously a 0 so far, still. It is perfectly normal for kids to follow gender stereotypes because that is how God made us. The reason so many girls want to feel womanly and cared for and care for others is in a motherly way is not because they feel pressured to fit into social norms. It's because God created them and chose to reflect in them his beauty and his compassion in that way. You're saying many girls want to feel womanly and care for others in a motherly way, but not because they're pressured, but because God created them. But you're saying that they should be pressured in the first part. Like you go back here and you say, I do not necessarily think it's a problem to enforce gender roles because you don't think God has done enough already. So God obviously created people that didn't care about the gender roles that you want to press on them. How do you explain that? In Genesis, God says it is not good for man to be alone. Jesus fucking Christ, Samantha. You're lost. So he created a helper for a man, which is a woman. You are relegated to being a helper for a man in your own fucking worldview. If you are a Christian and a woman, I need you to read these words. And I need you to like really understand why you are a second-class citizen in your own culture. You choose this as a Christian. This is not an essay, by the way. This is like a diary. The essay is incomplete. Many people assume the word helper in this context to be condescending and offensive to women. However, the original word in Hebrew is ezer kenegdo, and that directly translates to helper equal to. Does it? In the New Testament, it says for women to shut the fuck up. It says you can't be like in the church. It says you have to defer to men. It says you have to be mothers. And if you don't do it, I mean, what's the point? Additionally, God describes himself in the Bible using as our kenegdo, or helper, and describes his Holy Spirit as our helper as well. This shows the importance God places on the role of the helper women's roles. God does not view women as less significant. You are literally just in fucking religion class. I don't understand why Christians think. I've seen students do this, usually classmates. I don't think I've ever had a personal experience grading a paper where they were just using God. But I have been in philosophy classes where we spoke a lot of our arguments and gals were just saying God did it. I had a Bible as history class that was really interesting. And there were a lot of Christians in there that did not understand a goddamn thing. God does not view women as less significant than men. Men do, though, as according to the Bible. He created us with such He created us with such intentionally and care, and he made women in his image of being a helper and in the image of his beauty. Christians are illiterate. This is why it's so compelling to them to read the Bible. These are the same people taken in by, like, vague fortunes and stuff. They just believe all sorts of shit. If leading into that role means I am, quote, following gender stereotypes, then I am happy to be following a stereotype that aligns with the gifts and abilities God gave me as a woman. They think it's a virtue to be a cuck. Why would you cuck out to men and give them authority over you? I do not think men and women are pressured to be more masculine or feminine. Why? Why don't you think that? Have you not experienced reality with the world? So, like, when women are told they have to be pretty and stuff and be moms and do all that, like, that's pressuring them. When men are told that they have to be providers and aggressive and, all those things, strong, that's forcing masculinity. I strongly disagree with the idea from the article that, the article is mentioned again finally at the end of the 650 words. I strongly disagree with the idea from the article that encouraging acceptance of diverse gender expressions could improve students' confidence. The idea, this was a study. Society pushing the lie that there are multiple genders and everyone should be whatever they want to be is demonic and severely harms American youth. We're mentioning demons in the fucking college paper. Why am I getting a 0 on this? This is science. Look, it's got demons. I do not want kids to be teased or bullied in school. However, I do think they're demons. Pushing the lie that everyone has their own truth and everyone can do whatever they want and be whoever they want is not biblical whatsoever. Yeah, I agree that the Bible is just a paltry offering towards the human experience, offering nothing by way of help, and only sort of like miring a human's psyche in the thoughts of depressed, archaic men from the Bronze Age. Why am I listening to a guy who thinks that fucking a goat might be fine, Don't think I need to take advice from that. The Bible says that our lives are not our own, but that our lives and our bodies belong to the Lord for his glory. That's rapey as fuck. I live my life based on this truth, small t, with all these capital letters, we're using a small t truth, and firmly believe that there would be less gender issues and insecurities in children if they were raised knowing that they do not belong to themselves, but they belong to the Lord. Yeah. I've never known widespread issues springing from the Christian insecurity that you and your body are not your own thing. Like, yeah, that's never come up as an issue. Christians, your brains are fucking melted. Genuinely, I feel for you guys a lot, because every time I read your fucking words, I just think, wow, you just do not get it. You don't understand life, and you are not happy. This is like saying things that I want to, like, literally, Christians think if they repeat the word that they've been taught, happiness will find them, and then most of them spend their entire lives anxious, angry, lashing out, and unloving towards their neighbors. Because of course you would be, right? You're just fucking flailing in a world that has answers for all the questions you're asking, but you do not seek. Very, very sad stuff for Christians. Here's the professor who is trans, and that must be part of it. They're non-binary. Here's the response from Mel. Of course, TPUSA is making this about the educator instead of the fucking lack of education that the Christians are able to absorb. Please note that I am not deducting points because you have certain beliefs, but instead I am deducting points for you posting a reaction paper that does not answer the questions for this assignment, contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence in a scientific class, and is at times offensive. While you are entitled to your own personal beliefs, there is an appropriate time or place to implement them in your reflections. I encourage all students to question or challenge the course material with other empirical findings or testable hypotheses, but using your own personal beliefs to argue against the findings of not only this article, but the findings of countless articles across psychology, biology, sociology, etc. is not best practice. You argue that abiding by normative gender roles is beneficial. It is perfectly fine to believe this. Quotes. But then to say that everyone should act the same while also saying that people aren't pressured into gendered expectations is contradictory, like I pointed out. Especially since your arguments reflect a religious pressure to act in gender stereotypical ways. Exactly. This is a beautiful response. So normal in comparison. Holy shit. You could say that strict gender norms don't create gender stereotypes. But that isn't true by definition of what a stereotype is. Please note that acknowledging gender stereotypes does not immediately denote a negative connotation, a nuance this article discusses, which he pretty much did not read. Additionally, to call an entire group of people demonic is highly offensive, especially a minoritized population. You are entitled to your own beliefs, but this isn't a vague narrative of society pushes lies, but instead the result of countless years developing psychological and scientific evidence for these claims and directly interacting with the communities involved. You may personally disagree with this, but that doesn't change the fact that every major psychological, medical, pediatric, and psychiatric association in the United States acknowledges that, biologically and psychologically, sex and gender is neither binary nor fixed. It's often bimodal in terms of sex, and gender is just like when you talk about the human construct of gender with somebody, like literally ask any person, like, what is a man, what is a woman, and they will give you different answers when you discuss what that is, because gender is definitely a social construct. Being male and female is one or I guess two types of expression in the bimodal distribution, and they're most often what we associate with human expression as far as primary sex characteristics, but by no means are these limited to those two things by people. Like, often people have primary or secondary sex characteristics that don't align with their prescribed gender, but would otherwise be cis by normative standards. Some of them have unseeable, just like, chromosomal changes that no one even fucking knows, and it would not necessarily align you other than your gender. But gender is just your expression of self in regards to the sex and how society needs to regard you.
Yes, socialism works.
Thank you, Rubble. I'm giving one a minty treasure. It's hard for people that are stupid to understand the difference, and so I don't blame a Christian who doesn't know nothing to not understand something like, what really is self? What really is expression? What really is gender? Because they're not capable of introspection. If you personally disagree with the findings, I implore you to imply some perspective and empathy in your work. If you personally disagree with findings, then by all means share your criticisms, but make sure to do so in a way that is appropriate and using the methodology of the empirical psychology as aligned with the learning goals in this class. So it's a psychology class. If you have any additional questions or concerns about this or would like some additional educational resources, I'd be happy to discuss this further and provide you with them. Here is an additional professor talking about this. Samantha, I am the other instructor for this course, and I have also taken the time to read your paper. I concur with Mel on the grade you received, who is not trans, by the way. They're just, of course, making it about the trans professor. I concur with Mel. This paper should not be considered as a completion of this assignment. Everyone has different ways in which they see the world, but in an academic course such as this, you are being asked to support your ideas with empirical evidence and higher level reasoning. I find it concerning that you state at the beginning of your paper that you do not think bullying, teasing, is a bad thing. In addition, your paper directly and harshly criticizes your peers and their opinions, which are just as valuable as yours. Disagreeing with others is fine, but there is a respectful way to go about it. That goes for a discussion post as well as reaction papers. Please employ more thoughtfulness in future assignments. This is so professional. This is exactly how you would expect a college educator to speak to students. It has a professional tone. It has clear reasoning, and multiple times they say our expectations for this paper was not for you to agree, but for you to show your work, essentially, like support your ideas with empirical evidence and higher level reasoning, is their words. Show how you got there. Instead, she just waxed about her fucking Bible study, which was shitty. Here's the Oklahoma University post, which, I mean, who knows how this is going to fucking go. The University of Oklahoma takes seriously concerns involving First Amendment rights, which I guess she's saying it's my First Amendment allows me to talk about God during the assignment, even though it doesn't meet the criteria of the assignment. I guess I could just say God did it and get an A. I'm going to go, you see this get taken up. If it goes through that you could just write God did it, everyone go start being whatever you want and write God did it the whole time. I'm not kidding. Just do it. Fuck their system. God did it. First Amendment rights, certainly including for religious freedoms. Upon receiving notice from the student on the grading of an assignment, the university immediately began a full review of the situation and has acted swiftly to address the matter. First, the college acted immediately to address the academic issue raised by the student. College leaders contacted her on the day her letter was received and have maintained regular communication throughout the process. As previously stated, a formal grade appeals process was conducted. The process resulted in steps to ensure no academic harm to the student from the graded assignments. Second, the student reported filing a claim of illegal discrimination based on religious beliefs to the appropriate university office. OU has a clear process for reviewing such claims, and it has been activated. The graduate student instructor has been placed on administrative leave pending the finalization of this process. Big disagree with this. To ensure fairness in the process, a full-time professor is serving as the course instructor for the remainder of this semester. OU remains firmly committed to fairness, respecting and protecting every student's right to express sincerely held religious beliefs. I imagine they're going to buckle. I just can't imagine you can write God did it on your fucking paper is a reasonable fucking response. Like, literally, it didn't accomplish the fucking task of the assignment at all. Like, it's even fine if she brings up God, but in the context of the fucking article, make it relevant and then cite your fucking work, add in why these studies, say, oh, well, the religious studies from this place, blah, 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 disagrees, and here's the cited work, and here's why it says that. You can have your personal gender ideology, even if you're right wing. Bullying is okay, then you got okay. If you say bullying is okay, then now you have to, in this setting, this is a literal psychology course, you have to provide documents. I would absolutely fail this person. Are you kidding me? You could see the pros was people unqualified getting A+ for pleading on the first. Is this the DEI? Dude, Christians are the number one DEI users. White fucking Christians. Their immediate nepotism is obvious. It never goes right. Bullying is okay, but not for podcasters in Fox News House. Hey, dude, I'm one of the. No, I'm not a podcaster. I think about it sometimes. I think about inviting your faves onto chat just to shoot the shit. Private Christian schools, by default, the smartest person is a Christian since everyone is Christian. In a lot of private Christian schools, they are taught by secular people. I focused on after 8th grade, and they joined high school with us, and those kids, a lot of them were fucking lagging behind. Real dumb. By the way, in my opinion, this paper would have been given a 0 in any self-respecting theology class as well. Probably. I don't know why she expected any different. Probably because she's a fucking entitled Christian white kid, dude. Classic. Apparently her mother is a prominent litigious Christian conservative grifter, and there's speculation